Hello. I have to put this one out, both here and on YouTube. We'll see if it gets taken down. But I'm quite concerned for the safety of children and women, especially after the UK government introduced the Internet Online Safety Act, and that came into a few days ago. There's been a whole furore about it. But I've sent a message over on X to number 10 and Ofcom asking if there's been a risk assessment this morning because a lot of people will say that online porn, and I'm not talking anything illegal, just normal, standard, run of the mill, authorized porn, both consenting adults, all that sort of stuff. It, I wouldn't say it prevents actions against children and women. I mean, probably men as well, but it does reduce them. And there is no evidence to say any, there's a few bits of evidence to say that it does reduce violence against individuals. But even the UK government in 2021, when they did a review of this, probably in preparation for this Online Safety Act, they could not find a link between violence, porn and violence, or actions against the person. That was 2021. So what has changed the UK government? It's, as a lot of people online are saying, it's not about child protection. You can protect children in other ways. For example, service providers could easily just enable parental locks on routers. If you enabled parental locks at home, then the people that were there, like parents, they could then set the parental locks up. And people that aren't parents, they could just set the parental lock up. Enforced parental locks is the easiest way of doing this. And ISPs, including phone companies, mobile phone companies, and that, can easily set parental locks on everything. That's the simplest way of doing it. And that way, each phone would need to be authorized and each access point, because, everyone assumes that all this stuff is done on a phone. No, people use TVs, like I do, for viewing stuff that is now blocked. And, like I said, has there been a risk assessment? It's not just about violence against persons, it's also about mental health for, various people, including myself. I mean, for example, I've become agoraphobic. I think that's the right word. And my social life is virtually zero because I've got a really high bar on relationship levels and what a friend is. And it doesn't tally with 99% of people I come across. So the only sort of sexual activity I get is by watching porn. Although, thanks to the medication I found recently, even that has become almost impossible because no one told me the medication affects all sorts of sexual desires and things like that. And apparently, it's permanent. You stop taking the drugs and you still have the effects. Thank you, NHS doctors, for not doing your job properly. But on the point of this internet safety for kids, it's just a way of spying. It's Big Brother. It is literally Big Brother because then you have to register your internet activity, which these third parties are providing to the UK government. There's all these get outs and we protect your safety. It's all encrypted, blah, 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 blah. And the very last line is, in some circumstances, we will freely share your information with other people. Really? Well, personally, I don't really want to share a photograph of my passport with a third person that's going to share it with other people. I don't consent to that. And really, up until this IOSA, on Internet Online Safety Act, came in, the UK government actually advised you not to share your passport photograph with anyone apart from official bodies for the government. And now they've changed that so that you are able to share it with almost anyone. Well, as a victim of fraud and scam over, twice or three times over 3 years, it's hard to track down what's fraud and what's poor memory. But at least twice I've contacted Action Fraud. This is just, it's already started. There are reviews about scam websites already being set up to, it basically, they mimic the people that are supposed to be authorizing access. And they get your passport, they get your photograph, they get your address, they got your passport number, your age. You only need 3 items for evidence on most things. And a passport photograph gives you most of that. And if they're sniffing your link to the internet, they can get everything. I mean, if they really wanted to protect children, then, well, they would just ban all child pornography. I know it's illegal, but it's still out there apparently. So clamp down on it, close the site, and just destroy the people that are running these sites. Don't go for 99% of the population, because most of us are doing no harm to anyone. Yes, protect children, but don't make it as though, oh, this is happening so much, we're losing our children. No, we're not. Look at the stats. There aren't that many children that have been affected by online things. There are a few, but you can't make laws to protect a few when the majority of children are not affected. You have to make allowances for them, but it's poor legislation. It's like remember the Dangerous Dogs Act, where I think there were 2 instances of dogs attacking, I think, children. One was a baby, I seem to recall, and one was a child. I don't know can't remember what age. And Kenneth Baker did a snap bit of legislation that affected all dogs all the time. Has it stopped attacks on children and babies? I don't think it has. It's just not being reported. And it was poor legislation because it was poorly worded and had to be amended quite a few times. And it's the same thing. So don't come up with legislation just because 1 or 2 individuals are affected. Yes, it's a tragedy, but a tragedy is not something you can prevent. Not as 99% of children, for example. I mean, don't forget the women in this. Online Protection Act. It's not purely about children. Because when you start restricting access to various things, and we're now talking like basic sites like X and YouTube are now going to be restricted. Democracy is going out the window because the whole point of democracy is freedom of speech, so you can talk against the government and raise concerns publicly. Now, Mr. Starmer, or as someone on a website on YouTube said, Herr Starmer, because from what I understand, he's become more Nazi than the Nazis in 1930. And it's like, come on, man. Don't just think that you're in for one term and you've got to get everything done because otherwise you're going to have to wait 20 years. Spread it out. Consider the actions. Do risk assessments. Find out from women's groups, how is this going to affect you? Talk to Sex Matters. They understand about women. And it's like, come on, you cannot do this. You have basically banned the internet. UK has basically become North Korea. We are on the par with internet access with North Korea. We're not quite up to China yet, but with this new police group Herr Starmer has set up, looking into what you're saying online. I mean, my posts online are quite aggressive, especially towards local government and national government. Going back over 12 years, well, they're going to come round and arrest everyone for having an opinion about things. If they're going to start doing that, then someone needs to check, a legal person needs to check the legislation relating to the Online Protection Act to see if there's amendments in it. I'm not well enough to do it. To see if there's anything in there, an amendment or some sort of statutory ruling whereby your human rights are suspended because you have a human right for freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Does the Online Protection Act override the Human Rights Act? I don't know. I don't think it does, because the Human Rights Act is the act that supersedes everything. There's only a few of them that supersedes all acts, and the Human Rights Act has got priority over UK legislation. But apparently the Online Protection Act now overrides that because it throws your freedom of speech and freedom of expression out the window. Well done for voting for Keir Starmer, everyone. Talk about a rock and a hard place. I'd rather have the hard place. Well, I'm looking forward to the next general election because that's going to be a doozy for Mr. Farage, I think. We've got a Conservative leader that seems a bit more sensible than previous leaders they've had, but she's got to overcome the poor rap that they've had for the last 15 years. Yes, 15 years. They were all right up until 2010, and then they went into a coalition. They should never have gone into coalition. They should have tried to go for minority government and made deals like Theresa May did. And, I think a lot of people looked up to Theresa May for fighting the adversity that she was in. And she did negotiations with other parties to get legislation through. And she was just, the right woman at the wrong time because she had quite a lot of belligerent conservative MPs behind her. Without them, she would have been, I would have said, a reasonable prime minister. More reasonable than the ones we've had since 2010. Let's put it that way. So, Mr. Starmer, as an autistic person who sees things quite clearly, you cannot just diss people. 500,000 people have voted to repeal the Online Protection Act. And Keir Starmer, in his infinite wisdom, because he knows everything, he's a trained solicitor. He barely speaks English. How can he be a trained solicitor? But that's an aside. Let's put it this way, Mr. Starmer. You've rubbed people up the wrong way. You've denied 500,000 people at least, the last time I looked, the right to talk about this in Parliament and discuss this. I think, personally, the law should be that, the rules, I don't think it's law, but the rules about change.org is 100,000 or more, and it automatically goes to be discussed in Parliament. Keir Starmer has overruled that, like some sort of Stalin dictator. What is he afraid of if he's denying the right to speak about this? What is he afraid of? He's not protecting children by refusing to discuss these things. He's not protecting anyone by clamping down on everything, because it is more or less everything. He's asked Apple for permission to decrypt all their messages. I think they've given in. I'm not sure. It's going by what I've said. I've not discussed it. I think they've given in or are about to give in. He basically wants access to all your messages, all your online chat or posts, everything in Britain. It doesn't even have to be Britain. Any app in the British Isles, UK government will have access to everything. They are turning this country into a laughing stock. No one's taking us seriously. And with Keir Starmer in charge, no one's about to take us seriously. Let's put it this way. How many times in front of Starmer has Trump embarrassed him? Just in the last few months. How many times? Time after time, Trump mentions freedom of speech. Oh, we cherish freedom of speech in this country because we're clamping down on what you can say. Is that freedom of speech? Rightly, Trump has also criticised the London mayor, and I think he's only in basically because there's so many Asians in London. It is quite a high density of Asians that are voting for him. I'm not saying it's not a fair vote, but it's almost gerrymandering if you look at the stats. Almost. I didn't say it was. I haven't seen the stats, but from personal impression on the populace of London, there is a growing majority of Asians. And Asians, like Africans, will vote for Asians. Africans vote for Africans and will support and do anything for Africans. Asians will do similarly for other Asians. It's what I call cultural racism. They're not judging people fairly, like autistic people do. We don't judge anyone. We assess people on their merits, on their interaction. We start off with a neutrality with people. We treat you not like a friend or an enemy. We're just neutral to everyone. And then after engagement, we reassess that neutrality and it goes up or down. But some groups will automatically, I think it's natural. I'm not saying it's not natural, but it's wrong whether it's natural or not. Some groups will prioritize their own culture over others, and similar cultures will get prioritized over non-similar culture. It happens in the public sector. I've complained about it with my local authority because it's apparent in Waltham Forest Council. UK is going to pot. It literally is going to hell in a handcart if hell existed, which it doesn't. Well, apart from in your mind, So I don't know. I do hope that someone does something about Mr. Starmer and this nonsense policy of bringing in Big Brother. Why can't we, like I said at the beginning of this tirade, put parental locks on? enforce parental lock, and then those that, like me, live in a household where there's no children and there's likely not to be children, they can disable the parental locks if they put a code in. And it's easy to do. The ISPs could simply message the owner of the bill. No one else. They could message the owner of the bill on the code. So they could set up a separate code for everyone. It's a lot of work, but it'll be better than bringing a law to enforce it across the board. It should only be up to parents to enforce stuff like this. The one thing the UK people do not want is a nanny state or being told what they can think. Go back to the Potax riot. There was no consultation about any of that, and that's what upset the general population. It wasn't on the agenda until they got elected, and then all of a sudden, oh, I know, we can really boost income for local authorities by increasing the Potax, calling rates Potax and making everyone pay. Oh, that's a good idea. That really is the best way to wind people up. And it looks like now the Labour Party are going down that mad cow disease sort of road. Let everyone eat a hamburger and prove that it's safe. Eh? I mean, what are they putting in the water in the United Kingdom? I mean, maybe it's just around Westminster. But then the MPs that generally don't live in Westminster, do they? They say they do, but they normally have a second or third home somewhere else. And my MP, for example, Ian Duncan Smith, refuses to take any calls from me and has blocked me for 6 years now. Nice man. Disabled, unfriendly, and discriminates against anyone he doesn't like. Be aware that MPs are not forced to communicate with anyone. If your MP wants to sit on their arse and just sit at the bar drinking gin and tonics all day, they're quite willing to do that. They've got no authority at Parliament, and Parliament have blocked me for raising this recently. Blocked me for life. So I've been going on now for 20 minutes. I'm going to cut this a bit short because it really shouldn't be this long anyway. So please contact people if you've got an opinion about child safety. I think children need protection, but I think it's the responsibility of the parent. And really, if you're going to make anyone responsible, the legislation, because the other thing that no one's picked up on yet is if you do find a child has breached all these rules and has managed to access things you don't want them to access, since they are minors, how are you going to take prosecutions against them? What are you going to do? Oh, put them in Balstall for 6 months. Oh no, that don't exist anymore, does it? No, it should be up to the parents. So I don't know what the legislation says, but it should be the parents that are responsible for the children, and you take action against the parents. It is not generally the children's fault, especially as you get younger and younger, because I would say below the age of 12, children cannot make a reasonable assessment of whether this is harmful or not, because that's basically what it's coming down to. They just see it as exciting and fun. They just think it's a game. They don't understand if it could be harmful. And most psychiatrists will not say that it is harmful. It's only harmful to people, and I include children as people. It's only harmful to people that have a susceptibility for that. But there we are. I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a little ponder about this and engage. This is really important that we engage on this as much as we can. We need to push back on this. The UK government are going down the Big Brother route, and it's not reasonable. Yes to freedom of speech, yes to personal expression, but no to dictatorships and North Korea state-like impressions, because we're turning into North Korea. We should twin ourselves with North Korea. We're getting down that road. I mean, who's going to be next? Is Kim Jong-un going to be an advisor to Keir Starmer in the next few weeks? Who knows? He may as well be. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. I need to edit this and upload it. So thank you very much. Au revoir.